I know that Snowden called your newspaper one of the bravest newspapers. Could you explain why and how the crackdown affects your newspaper and you personally?
Snowden must have called Taraf as such specifically because Taraf, since it started its publication life in 2007, has been printing leaked documents which required lots of courage actually to be printed. Actually, we must get into the issue of investigative journalism and how leaks are very much functional in terms of investigative journalism in Turkey. Because you really don't have true version of international standard version of investigative journalism, but what you have is throughout Turkey's history is you have leaked documents most of the time, or leaked news being published. So this is how the public in general learns about lots of controversial issues in Turkey, like corruption cases. It's been that way basically throughout the journalistic history, we can say. This is, of course, not an asset for Turkey, for sure. True investigative journalism has its own place, and it should have been that way. But the thing is, looking at this history of this tradition in a way, leaked documents are really important, are really vital for the public to learn about actually what's happening in Ankara, the capital.
Sezin, how does your newspaper get these leaked documents? We know a little bit about this in Egypt also, but can you go into that a little bit?
It's actually one part of the bureaucracy who's unhappy about the way things are, who feel in a way things are not going right in the democratic path, let's say. We usually publicize in a way these documents publicized in a way that they give the journalist, a reporter, provide them with the leaks. But the thing is, in the history of Turkey, also political sides in the bureaucracy played off these documents against each other. So, of course, this is why I emphasize that investigative journalism is really important, and it should have its own place in Turkey. As Emma also pointed out, that we really didn't have a big covered story about the arms shipments, for example. There were lots of allegations going on and lots of hearsay going on about Turkish government's involvement in arms shipments to certain rebel and radical factions, as Emma emphasized. We've talked about this in Turkey for like 2 years almost, but there hasn't been really the visual evidence, let's say, or any sort of, in that sense, a package of investigative journalism about this. And how Turkish public eventually did start to have news about this printed was through international media. When international media started making stories about the issue, then Turkish newspapers also started to do so as well. So this is in a way a weakness in Turkish journalism, but we have to depend on leaks one way or the other. And during the time when military had a lot of influence in Turkey over Turkey's politics, civilian politics, this is when Taraf publicized coup plans about on the army's side, and one way or the other, this is how the army's influence over Turkish politics eroded over time. What happens now is that Taraf has always been controversial. At the time, when Taraf was publicizing these leaks about the military coup plans, it was popular on the government side. Ironically, and I used to. I remember that I used to go to the parliament for lots of reasons, and the parliament bureaucracy used to have Taraf on their desks to show me that, you know, they're reading the newspaper, they're supporting the newspaper. And now it's a non grata newspaper, of course, because now it's criticizing Erdogan quite heavily, and it's also criticizing the government, AKP. I have to be honest, I wish, I'm working there as a columnist, I wish that the newspapers, news tone, the news style, reporting style, when writing the news was a bit more toned down ethically. Because I do criticize the government, I have been criticizing the government and Erdogan since 2009, basically, almost, when I returned back to Turkey, because I was living in Budapest in Hungary. And since then, I'm critical. But the thing is, you have to be really, in a way, balanced with your criticism and the tone, etc. So this is a part of Turkish journalism that
I'm not in trouble yet, like many of your colleagues.
Because I have been, because I'm also in the university, in a political science department of a university, and I write quite a bit intellectual pieces for Turkey's taste of journalism. So I do not use harsh words, or I do not use, in a way, I don't insult but criticize, let's say. But this is very important. I mean, I think insulting should have a place as well. And I don't think calling, as in Erdogan's case, a president thief doesn't consult. It doesn't have to be insulting. It shouldn't be considered that way. You should have freedom of that sort of expression. It's totally something that shouldn't be criminalized, and I don't think personally that it's an insult. Especially considering the overwhelming power that the president has. The overly centralized power that the president has in Turkey. So I think the president, in a way, is insulting the profession of journalism by pursuing such cases, let's say. But what has changed in my life is that you really do self-censorship one way or the other. You become intimidated, and because of the cases, court cases opened against your colleagues, and the way, the intimidation that they're facing. I, for example, when tweeting, I started to be much more self-censored. Even when though I was toned down, I really take care on what I write, and this is something not nice, of course.
Okay, but understandable.